worry, I know you want to go home. It's a Friday afternoon. Do not thank God it's Friday inside. You study tonight. I'm not kidding you. How many of you still do social media to death? No more na. Call everybody. Medical school.
Social media defense.
This is very quick. Calm down. Very quick. So we're going to the diseases of the thyroid. So here. So these are people who most likely were not able to seek consult. So hyperthyroidism, also known as toxic goiter, thyrotoxicosis, or Graves' disease. What happens here is your thyroid gland will enlarge to 2 to 3 times of normal size. All of you know what that looks like. All of you know about this. So there is tremendous hyperplasia, which causes that large mass, no? Hyperplasia and infolding of what? That follicular cell lining, no? Into the follicles. And there is a greatly increased number of cells. And each of the cells also have a greatly increased secretion rate. So your glands will secrete thyroid hormone at the rates of 5 to 15 times the normal. That has got to go somewhere, right? So what you see outside, that's not really the problem, okay? It's just a manifestation of the problem. What causes this? These are caused by immunoglobulin antibodies, your thyroid-stimulating immunoglobulin. They are very similar to TSH, by the way, and they are found in the blood of almost all your hyperthyroid patients. Now, hyperthyroid, so the changes in the gland are similar to those caused by excessive TSH production. Note, however, that the plasma TSH concentrations of these patients are less than normal in most patients, and oftentimes they are zero. Now here's the cause. The thyroid-stimulating immunoglobulin for TSI. These are the antibodies we said that's found in the blood of almost all hyperthyroids. They bind with the same membrane receptors that bind your TSH, okay? So they are frauds. They induce a continual activation of your CAMP system, which causes the hyperthyroidism. So your TSI has a prolonged stimulatory effect on your thyroid gland. It goes on for up to 12 hours, while your TSH and stimulatory effects are usually only for an hour. So it goes on and on and on. So this causes a high level of thyroid hormone secretion, and by doing so, because of feedback, it is able to suppress the anterior pituitary formation of your TSH. So what happens, what usually causes this? The stimulus may be bacterial or a viral infection of the thyroid, which produces antibodies to your TSH receptors. And patients like this, they have a history of an excess of thyroid cell antigens released from the thyroid cells, resulting in the formation of antibodies which are against your thyroid gland. The antibodies will result from the autoimmunity against your thyroid tissue. Second, you have a thyroid adenoma. Here you have a localized tumor, which is the one that causes the hyperthyroidism. This will develop in your thyroid tissue, which secretes large amounts of your thyroid hormone. So this one, compared to the first one where you have Graves' disease, where TSI is involved, here, it is not associated with autoimmune disease. Okay? So it is the tumor that secretes large amounts of thyroid hormone. Note, as long as the tumor will secrete large amounts of thyroid hormone, the secretory function in the rest of the thyroid is going to be inhibited. It is not abnormal tumor secreting the TH to continue to cause the enlargement. Now, because thyroid hormone from the adenoma will depress the production of TSH by the pituitary gland, because the pituitary gland thinks that you have a lot already of hormone while it adds some more. Now, your toxic adenoma and multinodular goiter, or Flowers disease. This also results from mutations. We said it results from mutations in your TSH receptor. What happens there? Your thyroid nodules are like a lost command. They're no longer under the control. No? So it's autonomously functioning. It activates receptors, resulting in an uncontrollable release of TSH, no? And an excessive release of thyroid hormone follows, like I said, no longer under pituitary control. It's frightening, to think about it, that this can happen. So the serum thyroid hormone levels of these patients show very high levels of both T4 and T3 and a suppressed state of your TSH. These patients, however, do not have exophthalmos, the protuberant eyes that you see in patients, that you would expect in patients. And they do not also have the pretibial myxedema. And we look at myxedema later. What are the symptoms of hyperthyroidism? These patients are in a high state of excitability. They're intolerant to heat. They always complain of heat. So they also have increased sweating. They have mild extreme weight loss, up to 100 pounds. That's extreme. They have diarrhea. We talked about that earlier. They have muscle weakness. We understand why. They have nervousness and psychic disorders. We already understood why. They have extreme fatigue, but they cannot sleep. We mentioned that. The effects of the nervous system. And they have those fine hand tremors. Now, this is the exophthalmos. You see this in about 1/3 of hyperthyroid patients. I see this, I have students before, it did not become, this one is an extreme form, but I know students who were still untreated before, and they were already beginning to have protuberant eyes. And then one of our colleagues told the student, magpatambal ka, I know that my thyroid problem, don't money good, and then siya sa akong family, marami hyperthyroid, so I'm glad I didn't say anything. The exophthalmos here, I was also present, including I'm so sorry, yeah. She said, okay na daw, maanad na ako. For a humble child, never mind. I said, okay na daw. And then she got married, I said, oh, I'm glad you're married. Parehang isa kong buwan, protuberant po siya. I hope you woke up. Be careful, let's not make comments about people. Sometimes you want to help people, no? The intentions were good. I didn't say anything. I was the chihuahua. People died. Never mind. Anyway. So, the exophthalmos is caused by two swelling where? At the back of the eye, retroorbital, swelling of tissues, and there are also going to be degenerative changes in the ocular muscles. So we'll not go there. We studied this in opta. Just want to know the basics, in physiology. So there's an autoimmune process, So immunoglobulins in the blood will react with eye muscles. So sometimes the protrusion is so severe, it can affect the optic nerve. And that's where the problem is because these patients can have visual problems, visual damage, and their vision will be affected. Blindness is possible. And many of them, they cannot close their eyelids properly. So the corneas or parts of their outer eye can become, can have injury. So incomplete eyelid closure will damage the eyes eventually. So you cannot treat this by itself. You have to treat the hyperthyroidism before you can see the effects in improvement of the exophthalmos or the disappearance of the exophthalmos. So you have to treat. That's what we are in medicine. We do not treat what we see outside. We have to find out what is the cause of this condition and treat the underlying cause. So treatment of hyperthyroidism. So you've heard of people who have undergone surgical removal of the thyroid gland. But your pre-operative procedures, remember what we studied kanina, the anti-thyroid, you can give propylthiouracil until the basal metabolic rate of the patient returns to normal before you do surgery. You can also give iodides in high concentration for 2 weeks. Remember what we said? Decreases the size, decreases the blood supply. Kanina, when we were talking about anti-thyroid. So you give iodides in high concentrations for 2 weeks immediately before the surgery because this will do 2 things. It will diminish, make the gland smaller, and also it will slow down the blood supply. So when you do surgery, it will not bleed so much. So the procedures are very safe. So you can, radioactive iodine has been used to treat hyperplastic toxic thyroid gland. No? So yesterday we were talking about treating nuclear poisoning. We were talking about nuclear accidents, and we mentioned radioactive iodine. So, because one of the effects, Chernobyl, for example, you heard of that? The explosion in Europe, very good for the people who know 1986. So, almost 6,000 children who were 14 years old and below at the time of the explosion have developed thyroid cancer. And almost 6,000 different children who were below the age of 18 also developed thyroid cancer. No? So, for the one in Fukushima, it was not thyroid cancer, it was more of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it was more of leukemias. So different, no? So now radioactive iodine can destroy most of the secretory cells. So you can continue to give additional doses until you have a normal thyroid status. So we're just passing by here so you are aware. Now let's go to the opposite of hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism. So the effects are, it's a no-brainer, the opposite of hyperthyroidism. Also initiated by autoimmunity against the thyroid gland. The autoimmunity, this immunity will destroy the thyroid gland. And there are steps to the condition. First, there is a thyroiditis, an inflammation of the thyroid, no? But it's also caused by an autoimmune process. Then, followed by a progressive deterioration of the gland. The gland is going to harden, there will be fibrosis, and finally, there will be a diminution or sometimes an absence of thyroid hormone secretion. There are other types of hypothyroidism associated with thyroid goiter. There can be an endemic goiter. There are parts of the world where there is absolutely no iodine, no source, no sea near them, and they do not eat iodized salt because they have no iodine. And there's also a form of a goiter. It is not toxic, however, but it is idiopathic. You know, in medicine, when it's idiopathic, you do not know the reason why. As one of my students said, "Doc, it's like love. I do not know why I like this person. It's an idiopathic attraction." Idiopathic daw yung attraction. Anyway, the things you hear from your kids. I know why he was crying to me, that boy, because he wanted his breaks to be raised. I said, I do not think romance is a reason. So, here's endemic colloid goiter. It is caused by the dietary iodine deficiency. Like I said, there may be insufficient iodine in the soil of certain areas. The mechanism here, first, the lack of iodine prevents the production of T3 and T4. And because of that, you have no thyroid hormone to inhibit the production of TSH. Who produces TSH? The anterior pituitary. And because of that, your pituitary will secrete plenty of TSH. And the TSH, because it was released, what will it do? It will do what it's supposed to do. It's a good soldier. It goes to the thyroid cells and orders it to secrete large amounts of thyroglobulin colloid into the follicles. And those individual colloids will become very, very large. And because of those large follicles, more and more large follicles, the gland is going to become 10 to 20 times larger than normal. Now, your lack of iodine prevents the production of T4 and T3 in the TG molecule. We know that, right? We started with iodine trapping. And does not cause the normal suppression of TSH production by the anterior pituitary. Because the iodine, what is it? It's there really, it's confined there in the TG molecule, while the pituitary is far from the gland itself. Now, your idiopathic non-toxic colloid goiter. You know, sometimes I have friends who come to me and bring me the report, the results from the lab, and they get so scared. But it says idiopathic non-toxic colloid goiter. What you have is an enlargement of the thyroid glands, like this lady. There is no dietary iodine deficiency. Sometimes it can be due to a mild form of thyroiditis that causes a slight hypothyroidism. And this will lead to an increase in the secretion of TSH. And after that, there will be a growth of the parts of the gland, the ones that are not affected by the inflammation, okay? The non-inflamed parts. So what do you have in this case? Some parts of the gland are nodular, some parts are growing, while some parts are already destroyed. Then it can also be caused by an abnormal enzyme system. We're not saying it's zero, or we're not saying it's absent, or we're not saying it's destroyed. It's just that there's an abnormality there. And you know that the enzyme system, both peroxidase and deoxygenase, are needed for the formation of thyroid hormones. And then probably the patient is taking in goitrogenic substances. So, like what? There are some, I'm not sure about this. They said cruciferous vegetables. What are these? But it's cabbage, broccoli. Broccoli is beautiful. What? Cauliflower, yan daw, high in propylthiouracil, no? Type of anti-thyroid activity. So it stimulates your TSH, producing the goiter. Now I have a question about these goitrogenic substances. They say that people don't eat a lot of seaweed, lato. Call that lato here? Okay. The seaweed, people who live near the sea have normal thyroid function. But you know, in our place, there are plenty of bajaos, and sammals. They also have large goiters. So I said, probably this is not due to, this is not idiopathic non-toxic colon goiter. Baka naman there's something baka there was a viral infection here that caused Graves' disease. No, I'm thinking like that. It was confined in that area. Because if you're just talking about the need for iodine and causing the goiter, like we saw kanina, the endemic goiter, I don't think it applies to them. I haven't studied it. So if you have and you see something about it, you let me know. Now, we talked about the abnormalities of the enzyme system, no? There may be deficiencies in, first, it can be the iodide trapping mechanism itself. Second, it may be the peroxidase system. And because of the deficiency in the peroxidase system, your iodides, of course, will not be oxidized into the iodine needed to produce your thyroid hormone. And maybe a deficiency in the way the iodinated tyrosines are coupling. There may be a break here somewhere, no? Or a dysfunction. And the iodinase enzyme itself, no? So it prevents the recovery of iodinated tyrosines that are not coupled, and it can lead to iodine deficiency. Now, physiological characteristics of hypothyroidism. The physiologic effects of hypothyroidism are the same, whatever the cause may be. Whether the cause is thyroiditis, an endemic colon goiter, or an idiopathic colon goiter, or a destruction of the thyroid gland by irradiation, which can happen, or the surgical removal of the thyroid gland. So what are the physiological effects of hypothyroidism? So this also looks like a medical student. Fatigue, extreme somnolence, willing to sleep anywhere, or maybe not willing, must just fall. Extreme muscular sluggishness, slowed heart rate, a decrease in cardiac output, a decrease in the blood volume. The opposite if you're hyperthyroidism, so it's easy to remember. Increased body weight, increase of constipation again. This cannot be a medical student. You're all smart, you wouldn't be here. Mental sluggishness and failure of many trophic functions. There's a depressed hair growth, skin scaliness, and they have a frog-like husky voice. And they have myxedema. What is myxedema? Myxedema is seen in severe cases of hypothyroidism in patients who have almost total lack of thyroid hormone function. It looks like they have anasarca, like they have edema all over the body. So under the eyes, the bugginess, there's facial swelling, and the edema and the swelling is because of the greatly increased amounts of what? Hyaluronic acid and chondroitin sulfate, bound with protein, and together this will form a gel. Not just a gel, but a lot of gel, no? In your interstitial spaces. And because of that, it increases, no? The amounts of interstitial fluid. And because that those increased amounts of interstitial fluid are gel-like in nature, they do not move. That's why when you press, the edema, you know, pitting edema, when you press, it gets depressed, no? This one is not. Just a solid line swelling all over. So here, you can see. So these are all. Anyway, so that's myxedema. And then these are before, after treatment, there can really be improvement. Then in hypothyroidism, prone to atherosclerosis. Why? Because the lack of thyroid hormone will increase the blood cholesterol. Because there is an alteration in blood, in fat, and cholesterol metabolism. And the liver is not able to excrete the cholesterol into bile properly. Many of the hypothyroids, especially those who already have mixed edema, even if they're very young, will develop atherosclerosis. And because of that, they can have peripheral vascular disease, they will have deafness also, coronary artery disease. And many of them, left untreated, they will die young. Cretinism, this one. In Europe in the past, whole villages were cretinous, no? Many of them. So those of you who are fond of reading literature, especially scary, mystery literature, so I love reading very much. It's my favorite thing. I would like to read more than anything. Of course, reading with nobody disturbing you, diba? So anyway, so I read a lot about this, and then one of my horrible, my sister used to get upset with me. There was one particular story where in the 18th century, they had a breakdown somewhere down in a country near the Alps. Nagkabinaan sila, and they had nowhere to go. And they were warmly welcomed by the village with many people. Some were very tall, and some were very, very small. And they were very nice to them. But the whole point of it was that they all looked strange. So from the description in the book, they sort of look like this lady. This is not a child, this is an adult. So, basta the next morning, somebody came to look for them and they were gone. They had been eaten. I think it was a story. So, mga stories na ganyan. Kasi supposedly, in some of the areas of Europe, in ancient times, whole villages were cretins. Okay? So, look what it is. So, extreme hypothyroidism during fetal life, infancy and childhood. We don't have that anymore because everybody is conscious about thyroid hormones, no? What is this? It results from a lack of thyroid gland, no? No, so that's congenital cretinism. Or they have a thyroid gland, but the thyroid gland cannot produce thyroid hormone. So there's a genetic defect in the gland. Or they have dietary iodine deficiency. Maybe that's the reason why the stories that I read up in the mountains were endemic cretinism. And whole populations, that's the one where the story got it from. Maybe the story, the writers of the stories did not know physiology or did not know medicine, but they notice it from real life experience or stories that they heard. Whole populations, whole villages have been cretinoid. So they're able to function, but because there's a mental problem, and if it is a negative form, they will harm people. But they're cunning enough to know how to present down an appearance of benevolence. So I don't know. So you can treat a neonate with cretinism with iodine or T4 at any time. This one is from China, so this is more recent. Usually causes normal return of physical growth. So but the patient can have mental retardation if you do not treat within a few weeks after birth. Very, very small window for treatment. So child with cretinism, the skeletal growth is more inhibited than soft tissue growth. And because of that, the soft tissues will enlarge excessively. No? They will become obese, stocky, and short. They also have a very large tongue. Soft tissues man, excessive growth. No? So the large tongue will obstruct swallowing, and these patients have characteristic guttural. It's like a scary type of breathing that may sometimes choke the child because the tongue is very large. How many of you like reading Tintin? How do you pronounce that? Tintin? T-I-N? You want like comics form or cartoons? No? Okay, look it up. T-I-N. It's very famous. Look it up. Anyway, my last slide to end. You will not appreciate it if you have never heard of T-I-N. Okay? It's been made into film. Okay? So they have a friend. Tintin has a friend called the Captain, and his worst curse, insult is this, which of course is supremely politically incorrect. It's like saying cretin from the Alps. So we're done. By the way, I failed to show you diseases in the growth hormone, right? I did not show you gigantism and dwarfism, right? I did not. So, on Monday, up to thyroid hormone exam, but I will not include diseases for both. Are we okay? Yes. Okay.